Okay, let's take a look. Let's see if I can show you what this looks like when you take it apart. Let's see, first of all, I've already removed the counterweights. Let's take that off. Before we go too far, I had better take these off. These are pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Nothing fancy about them. You know, very high quality, like a Lasmandi or something would have something to push in on those to maintain the pressure. Let's see, is that the right one? That's the right one. I don't have any such device here. It's really all very, very simple stuff. I think one of the most complicated things was hobbing that large worm gear. It was alright, now that just comes off. This is a straight 1/2 13 thread here. So it's exactly like a 1/2 13 bolt, except of course I cut this on solid stainless steel. This is the worm gear that was free hobbed. Essentially it was turning like so, and the lathe was spinning with a tap. And the tap, I just ran it into the tap, and the tap gradually grounded away. And there's some more technical attributes to all that. It's not quite as simple as that, but that's the basic idea. Let's see now if I can pull this apart. You can see I just pulled off those two devices. Now the whole thing will come out. Whoopsie, lost one of my bearings. This is one of the bronze bearings. It just fell out the bottom. I'm not sure if you caught that on camera. Anyway, that's just one of the bronze bearings. No big deal. And here comes the rest of the shaft. And you can see there's a lot of stuff to this. One of the things I discovered was that this is just it's a washer made out of leather. I took an old leather glove and cut it up. And that's something the old timers would do, is use a leather washer to help adjust the friction. You want just enough friction between this gear and the rest of the mechanism to allow it to grab when it's squeezed pretty tight, but to allow it not to grab when it's a little bit looser. That way you can push the mount around when you need to, and then assuming the friction's all good, you can still engage this gear. This is the other bearing here. This particular setting circle is just screwed on here, just attached there. It's just the declination, and it's attached there. It's fixed. So there is, let's pull all this off. You can see all the parts to this. There's the worm gear, and a bronze bearing and a piece of steel. And that's pretty much all there is to that. Don't want to forget how all this goes together. Make sure I get it right when I put it back together. This is, as you can see, very, very simple. There's nothing to this. That's just it's just basically a shaft with thread on it. This is stainless steel. Really easy, simple construction. Alright, now let's take this apart. This one is a bit more complicated. I just really love that part right there. let's see, the bearing, here's the bearing. The bearings on this one are, on this side are a little bit different, not quite as big and beefy as the other. Oh, better not forget to take this off. Let's see. This is tricky. This is a pain because you have to get underneath. You have to figure out which way to go. Wow, that's tight. There we go. Well, it didn't help that I was trying to tighten it more. I'm trying not to block the view too much. This is tricky even when I'm not trying to demonstrate with the camera. I discovered that if you loosen this up, it's just loose. Well, I'll take it off. I'll take it off to show you. You don't really have to take it all the way off to take this thing out. But I will just to demonstrate it. All right, essentially the same kind of thing there. Now this should be pretty much ready to go. This is trickier. It's got more parts here, so I think I'll be a bit more careful pulling this out. I need the steel. That's a spacer, partly, but I also want the pressure. I want this pressure bearing. This is a bronze bearing, a thrust bearing. I want that pushing against steel whenever possible. Here's the gear for this one. I've got a couple of this setting circle here. Really, it turns with the right ascension axis, and there's really it's not binding. In other words, this is carrying all the thrust right here. This little piece here. So this just allows it to stay in the same place. So it's really just floating on there. This little thrust washer here, that carries the load. And then similarly to the other one, I have this is a really skinny handmade leather washer that does that. So that gives you a sense of what this thing looks like when it's taken apart. At least those parts are removed. I wanted to also show you this. This really actually functions, and this is quite tight. There are two of these, one on either side. When you loosen those, you can adjust this. And as you can see, I've limited the amount of adjustment here. But you can adjust this for whatever latitude you are, at least within pretty close to my latitude. And these really are washers. They squeeze down, or really are wing nuts. They squeeze down on that, and that's, believe it or not, I was a little surprised too. That's enough to hold this thing. Of course, it's bearing against a huge cylinder here, so that's what does that. I'll give you a better look at this and get a good look at what it looks like inside. I machined all this, and I formed a lot of this using. Some of this I formed using JB Weld epoxy and JB Weld steel stick stuff material, and also a little bit of Bondo. The Bondo isn't very strong, so I didn't use too much of that except for like filling in here. I used I would put some JB Weld around here, and then a little Bondo over the top just to kind of smooth out the surface. I don't know if you can tell, this right down here, that's actually, this continues down to about here, and then right about there, it starts to be JB Weld right here. So you've got epoxy steel stick stuff here. It's really not bearing any kind of a load. I just wanted to, of course, continue this line for aesthetic purposes. None of this is cast. This is all made on a machine and modified. Well, I hope you enjoyed my little teardown of this Alvan Clark replica mount. Thank you.